Hi everyone, my name is Piera. Thanks so much for joining me today. I really appreciate you taking the time to watch this because the topic we are diving into is one that most of us usually avoid: death. But it's something every single one of us will face. In this presentation, I want to explore what it means to be human in the face of death, especially from a Christian theological perspective. Basically, how our faith helps us understand our mortality and the meaning of our lives. Death brings up huge questions about who we are, what are we here for, and what happens beyond this life. Christianity doesn't run away from these questions. Instead, it offers honest, meaningful answers. Simon Howard and Paul Fiddes, two theologians we'll talk about today, provide beautiful insights into this subject. Humans naturally search for meaning. When someone dies, especially someone close to us, we want closure, comfort, or even just an explanation. Christianity reminds us that death isn't meaningless. It actually reveals our limits as human beings, but also reveals the depth of God's love for us. Let's go back to the beginning, to Genesis 2 and 3. Howard points out that humans were created from the dust, and then God breathed life into us. So right away, our life isn't random or accidental, it's intentional. And our life is sustained by God's presence. When Adam and Eve disobeyed, they didn't physically die. What broke was their relationship with God. That's what Scripture is describing as death. And even then, God still cared for them. He clothed them and gave them a future. It's a powerful reminder that even when we fail, God doesn't abandon us. Another key point: Genesis never says that humans were meant to be immortal. Mortality was always part of what it means to be human. Christian theology describes humans as body and soul united, not one trapped inside the other, but a whole person. Today's society often avoids the topic of death. We push it away with technology, health trends, or other fantasies about living forever, but Christianity grounds us. It reminds us that mortality is natural. What endures is our relationship with God. Many assume death exists because of sin, but actually, Adam and Eve didn't die physically because of sin. Instead, sin separated them from God, so the real tragedy isn't the biological part of death, it's being spiritually disconnected from the one who gives life, that is God. Once we understand this, we can approach death differently. We don't have to fear it. Instead, we can focus on reconciliation, grace, and living in restored relationship with God. Paul Fiddes explains that death can feel both like an enemy and a boundary. It can be painful, disruptive, and heartbreaking. Anyone who has experienced grief knows that, but death also sets the limits of our lives, helping us make wiser choices and value the time we do have. For people who suffer long-term illness or who have lived a full life, death can even bring peace. It helps us recognize that life isn't forever, and that's actually what makes it meaningful. Now, the big turning point in all of this is Jesus. Howard and Fiddes both say that the key to understanding death is found in Him. Jesus enters into death Himself, experiences abandonment, pain, fear, and He transforms it through the resurrection. Suddenly, death isn't the end. It becomes the doorway into a new life. This gives Christians incredible hope. Our bodies die, but our relationship with God doesn't. Those who have died live in God, as Fiddes says. Their love continues through the ways they shaped our lives. So what does it all mean for us today? First, it helps us face death with honesty rather than fear. Second, it teaches us to value our bodies, our relationships, our energy, because all of it is sacred. Third, it reminds us that community matters deeply, especially supporting those who are dying. And finally, Christian theology does not deny death or avoid the subject, but it does give us a deep understanding of the way we see it. Death is real and a natural part of life. For some, it can be a fearful thing. It is painful and mysterious, especially for those who do not understand. It reminds us that as humans we are finite, dependent and loved by our Creator in this life and the next. Simon Brian Howard shows that death began with an act of disobedience and banishment, but God's love and mercy never abandoned humanity. Instead, God chose to restore humanity through Christ. Paul Fiddes shows us that death can be faced with both resistance and peace, because our identity and hope are securely held in God. So as Christians, we can speak of death, we can actually speak of life, life given, life taken, and life restored through Christ. Therefore, Christian theology is not death but life. This changes everything, how we live, love, and die. Hope this short presentation encourages you to look into the topic of death deeper. I know it's confronting, don't be scared. Thanks for listening and God bless.